God engages with me here through the simplicity of the place. The buildings are beautiful, but there's a real simplicity, the plain white walls, not lots of clutter everywhere. But there's something about that simplicity that just is very restful, actually, and enables me to engage with God. The beauty of the surroundings, looking over to the Ffald Hills, looking at the flowers, the wildlife here, and just seeing the seasons change. There's just so much of God reflected in his creation.
You feel like that you're looking after his creation. It is, the plants that he's made, that he's created, and at one time spoke into existence and created from nothing. And it just reminds me sometimes when we have a bare patch of soil and it's just bare, there's nothing there, and then we plant our plants, and then sort of a few months later you just see all this beauty. Just things like that remind me of how magnificently he's worked. My responsibilities mainly are in the garden, which entails looking after all the plants, making sure that they're well watered, fed and looked after, pruned and trimmed. So I'm kind of like the plants pastor. I have such a sense that it's like here is like God's open invitation to come and meet with him. It's a place where everybody, doesn't matter who you are, there's an open invitation from the Master.
I think the environment, the fact that it's just so quiet, it's having those listening ears to God. And I just find God just speaks to me through nature, through other people, through the word, and certainly in prayers as well. One day I was going down to the cross, and when I was walking back, I saw the compost heap, on the way. And I just looked at it and I just felt God say, there's nothing wasted. And I just thought, gosh, that's like the compost heap. That's rubbish. And I just felt like all those things that had happened, they're not wasted. God has used them for purpose. So even simple things like the compost heap have spoken to me.
When I first came here, I was going through some relationship stuff, and I was not new Christian, but just a few years into my Christian walk, and I had a lot of things to get through, and coming here really strengthened me. Every time I would come and go home, things would move and be different. When I became part of the team, then it became my life, and it provided me a family, and it's just strengthened me, and I just love to be here. I've had joy. Yeah, I had a lot of joy when I've been here. I do the little flowers, and I get a bit carried away because I just love picking the flowers, and I love the small flowers, the garden flowers, and lots of varieties, and then I just pick them and I just put them in all the little pots and put them in the rooms. So I've got everybody saving me little pots and jam jars and little candle pots and stuff. I like doing the little ones, yeah.
We used to come here and visit fairly regularly, really. Wales is has been on my husband's heart and on our heart, really. We've always known God has called us back to Wales. So certainly visiting here, the times when we've come, I've heard God speak. There was a major time when we came, and I just began to feel God speaking to me, speaking to us, and I just felt he was asking me to give up my job, and that there was a new season coming. And I just felt at that time he said to pause, rest and reflect. There was obviously a choice there, and in giving up my job, it meant we were living by faith. We didn't have any income. But we felt that was what God was saying, and so we did it. And from that point, then God called us back to Wales. It meant that I came here and actually started work here. So that vision of what we had for Wales, all that happening came about through visiting here and hearing God speak.
One of the most beautiful things for me is watching God bring his truth alive to guests that come here. So, for instance, I remember walking into the kitchen and meeting a woman there and just asking her how her time was going. And she just welled up with tears and just said, "He loves me. He just loves me. He loves me." And I was like, wow, this woman knew probably theologically in her mind that she was loved, but was actually experiencing that. It was becoming alive in her heart. I remember another woman who had obviously been feeling a lot of condemnation about a decision that she'd made in her life, and almost felt that was hanging over her. And one morning in morning prayers, as we read the psalm, truth just broke into her heart, and she realized there is no condemnation. God is not holding this decision over me. And she was set free, able to rejoice, and went from here a different person. We don't realize sometimes how much we don't understand or really live the truth of God's word, but when it comes and penetrates our hearts as well as our minds, it's transformational. And it may not seem like a big thing to anybody else, but for those people, it changed their lives.
I always say my favourite place is the Hermitage, and once when I stayed there, it was as though I was reading Song of Songs. It was all like Song of Songs, and my beloved, come away with me, and like God saying, he's your husband. And then I went home and was reflecting, and everything, I got a book off the shelf and it was just talking to me the same. And then I got this ring that I'd ordered, and this is it, a ring on my finger, and put it on, and it just fitted. And it was just like a really special time when I felt that, God had drawn me closer.
I do remember watching a guest arrive, and she was in a wheelchair, and I remember seeing her husband struggling to get her into the wheelchair, which he eventually did. I didn't know anything about miracles, or so to speak, but I remember thinking what a shame that was that she was like that. And I remember probably 2 hours later, she had been prayed for, not by me, but by somebody else, and she had been totally healed. Her children have never seen her walk, and she was on holiday with her teenage children, and she went back to the caravan pushing her wheelchair, and that just blew my mind.
One day I was covering overnight, and I was in the centre, and I heard I was sleeping, and I heard someone call my name, and it was just really clear, "Jeanette." So I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I popped my head out, nobody in the corridor. So I walked into the next room, which is like a communal room, nobody in there. So I thought, oh, right, okay. So I went back to bed, went back to sleep, and then it happened again. And Jeanette, so I was like, yeah. So I got up again, and then and nobody was there, and I was thinking, my life was, and then I kind of remembered Samuel, and I was like, okay, God, I'm listening if you want to speak to me. Went back to bed, fell back to sleep, and then I just had this sense of angels singing over me. It was so real that I was like, I've got to remember this is amazing. And I just felt them singing over me, and from that I just felt, God's heart and God's love for me. I think part of it is those times when we came to stay here, you're putting aside day-to-day life and saying, okay, God, I want to encounter you.
Someone doesn't always have to be here. You know, he just sort of works where anybody desires to come, not to a place but to him. That's the most important thing. I mean, lots of people do come to Ffald y Brenin to visit, but it's when a person actually comes to him, that's the difference.
So when I first joined the team at Ffald y Brenin, the rhythm of prayer wasn't something that I was familiar with. It wasn't part of my background, wasn't part of my experience. So I just found that God taught me so much through the daily rhythm of prayer, the discipline of stopping and listening, regularly engaging my heart with him.
I love the daily rhythm of prayer. For me, it just gives you anchor points that you can just sort of grab a hold of, and it's just seeing what God might be saying in them. I was thinking this morning, where there's a little section where it says, Jesus said, "Come, follow me," and I look at that and how that just encourages me. I just think of waking up in the morning and then Jesus stepping into our bedroom saying, "Ian, come follow me." And I just think, just little things like that, how you engage with it. It's how you engage with it. You can read it. You could just read it like a newspaper and, you know, just rereading liturgy, but it's actually allowing your imagination and your heart to engage with it. And I find all sorts of things that you can pick out, different truths of what God has done, what he's like. You get to see his character, his nature in it. It's just, I find it an incredible blessing.
If you're getting sidetracked or anything, it keeps you focused all the time, and I just love that you just can come into the presence and you can just sit and hear from God again, you know. I like particularly like the morning one when we read the Psalms and then be quiet and then reflect on it, yeah. Where
we know that quite often our guests arrive at 70 miles an hour. They're just so used to a fast-paced life. Everything's quick, everything's rush, rush, rush. And it's amazing to see them come to a screeching halt during the rhythm of prayer. And it's just so amazing just to see the transformation of when they actually grasp that it's not all busy, but it's actually rest.
It took a bit of training in that sense, training my mind, but I feel that what's happened to me since is that I've just grown in my awareness of God throughout my day. And even if maybe I'm not practicing a daily rhythm in the Ffald y Brenin sense every day, but actually what I find myself doing is stopping regularly in the day to engage with God. And it's so enriching. It's enriched my walk with him because he's a part of everything. He's a part of every minute of every day. And by continually stopping and having that practice of being able to stop at any point in my mind and engage with him, makes the walk with him, living with Jesus, so much deeper, so much more meaningful.
I can remember when I was within my first 2 weeks here and thinking, wow, I'm going to be saying this same thing this year 360 times. And then I just thought, wow, when I've been here 10 years, that'll be 3,600 times that I would have repeated this. But the most amazing thing that I discovered after being here a short while was the amount of life that came out of it. And it's every morning it feels fresh because I see something different.
People might have gone aside and then you all come together, and there's something in that as well. You're all sharing that time and with each other and with God. Something special about that.
I just love the priesthood of all believers, that people come, and so often guests have spoken into my life, have shared what they have, with us, and it just, as we worship together, as we come together, it's just, yeah, it just so speaks of God. We just minister to one another. I think sometimes we can think that if something's exciting and loud and vibrant, that is the only way God speaks, or that is a sign that he's doing something. And those things are fun, they're great, you know, it's not that it's one or the other, but there's something about the silence where he can just speak so powerfully. And my sense is that sometimes in the silence, we can hear his whisper. And when he whispers, it's often a whisper of intimacy, because he is the bridegroom, we are the bride, and it's almost that we can come close enough to hear him speak and whisper in our ear, but you have to come close to do that. And sometimes we can hear that when there's other things going on, it's not about that, but I feel that when people come here, they could think, oh, well, there's nothing going on here because it's quiet. They rock up in the car park, they can't hear any traffic, there's not a big worship band, there's, you know, not a lot of noise going on, but actually there's something about us engaging with the silence and the quiet that can be so transformational. It's something that we, you know, that we've seen time and time again here, where people come into the silence and they hear the word of God that brings transformation. He knows what we need to hear. He knows what truth we need to be revealed to us. But in our world that is just so busy, so much noise, we need to just re-engage with the silence to be able to hear the whisper of God. And that is one of the beautiful things about this place for me.